Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hey everybody, this is Midge Noble, and you've tuned into the Gay with God podcast, and I'm so excited that you're here because, yay, you'll be excited too. We actually have a guest this week. You're not just listening to Midge mumbling around and talking. Ooh, and you can't tell, but Envy has a cat. Oh my God. Oh, so cute. So cute. Black and white, a little bit of gray. You guys cute.
Very
Sorry.
much the same breed as Grumpy Cat.
Okay, same breed as Grumpy Cat. All right. So let me introduce you to Envy Gay. Pronouns are they, she, with an immense focus on empowering and uplifting marginalized communities. Photographer, digital artist, educator, public speaker, and writer. Mix, Envy Gay, of Mix Gay's creative direction, draws inspiration through their life experience as a transgender individual. Their work explores topics of the human condition, bolstered by the words and lived experiences of Envy's subjects. With intent on treasuring individualistic self-expression, Envy exposes the raw wounds of prejudice and abuse while advocating for the inherent beauty in being human. Envy has also written a book that we'll talk about a little bit, but Envy will be coming back for a Going Deeper segment because it's not quite out yet, but we do want to hear a little bit about that so that you can get ready and put it on your wish list. So Envy, welcome to the Gay with God house and tell us your story.
Thank you, Midge, for having me on. It's an honor to be able to come on and talk with you. My story, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
start
it's a
anywhere you feel comfortable.
it is a very complicated and long history. So as the bio was saying, I am a transgender individual. I live out of Columbus, Ohio. I used to be a middle school educator, teaching sixth grade math. And then when I came out, I left the profession, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And I found that no matter what, I'm an educator. That's what I've been. That's what I've always wanted to be. And so I've kind of dove headfirst into being an educator within LGBTQIA plus like topics and fighting for our rights, advocating, writing for things, going to protest, speaking at the state house, speaking at like wherever I can. Um, and then as well, very much with my religion and my faith. I still am very much a Christian individual. Um, However, I don't necessarily fully go Christian. I would say more like a follower of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have all that the Christian nationalist movement and stuff
I
that's kind of,
know.
yeah, putting a little bit of a tarnish on some like of that Christian word. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I more am very much a follower of Christ, who
Mm-hmm.
very much would be right there with me, dining
Oh,
with me
yeah.
if he were here today.
You
So,
betcha. You betcha. We had a
um,
priest that came to our church to help out, and she said, I want to wear this shirt that says I am a Christian, and on the back it says the other kind.
oh, that's perfect.
I know.
So, I actually work with a nonprofit called Love Boldly. It's located here in Ohio, focusing on working to build a safe and affirming place for queer Christians.
Mm,
So we go in and work with churches all over the state of Ohio and providing education, seminars, trainings on how to become an affirming church for LGBTQIA plus individuals.
mhm.
And yeah, so that's a little
Wow.
bit about me. That's a very
Yeah.
short, condensed version.
Tell us a little bit about your family and how they responded to you as you began to come out.
So when I came out in 2018, December of 2018, I first came out to my wife, and um, my wife and I, we've been married since 2014. We were actually high school sweethearts. I know.
Oh.
Pause for the awe.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, it was a challenge with her at first, just trying to figure out what that meant for us, what that meant for her.
Mhm.
Um, Eventually, we kind of worked through everything, and now we have a much stronger and even better marriage than we had before, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
We're one of the lucky few that have survived a gender transition and a
Mhm.
like in our marriage. It's not impossible, but it is
Mhm.
hard. It is a very
Mhm.
difficult thing to do.
Mhm.
Um, and then family wise, I don't really have much contact with much any of my family anymore. With most of it, I was disowned,
Mhm.
as I was told that I will only be a man. I would only be that because of my body parts.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, it kind of just, yeah, I don't really have much communication with anyone
Mhm.
in my family anymore, anyone in my wife's family. We do have um, my brother-in-law, her youngest brother, who is incredible, absolutely incredible, and is
Mhm.
such an ally and such a loving, like, person that him and his wife are like everything to us. But and that's
Mhm.
about our only family that we have. But
Wow.
so
Mm.
yeah, I mean, a lot of like some of it was faith-based rejection. Some of the family members that did it said things that like you can't be a Christian, like God would condemn this, all that bull
Mhm.
crap. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, but for the most part, most of it was just, not accepting and affirming who I am as a person,
Mhm.
not wanting to see past, the gender transition and realize that I'm
Mhm.
still the same person. I'm just, you know, look a little different.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and I've heard that argument so many times, and it's like, are you telling me that God has stopped speaking and that God has stopped working? Because one, you know, gender expression has been all the way through the Bible. I mean,
Yes, it has.
and the Jewish community didn't seem to have that big of a problem with the whole thing. But
No, they
we
have a
get,
whole holiday surrounded by it called Priam.
yeah.
Like that's a whole holiday where the whole point is for men to dress and drag. Like,
Hello.
yeah, I mean,
Hello.
you have that. You have in the old Hebrew, Joseph in the coat of many colors, that famous
Mm-hmm.
story,
Mm-hmm.
that is referred to as a princess dress. That's
Ah,
how the old Hebrew translates.
that's
And so
so
it's
true.
like, well, yeah, there's arguments that, Adam and Eve, the creation story,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Adam is actually intersexed. He being
Yes.
that
Yes.
God had to remove the rib to create Eve, so remove the female part of Adam, so created that Adam is intersexed. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things within
Mm-hmm.
biblical teachings that are being erased. And
Yes.
there's actually a wonderful documentary that kind of covers this called 1946.
Yes.
Yes, that one. I write about it in my book. I actually met with the creators of that
Oh, wow.
documentary, and yeah, it's crazy to see just how
Mm-hmm.
much the mistranslation in that um, update or that version of the
Mm-hmm.
Bible
Mm-hmm.
just ruined
Yes.
or ruined society because it added the word homosexual, and then from there we get condemned. We get condemned
Yes.
from it.
Yeah. I've always questioned that for myself. It was very hard for me to come out, and it took me 30 years to do it. And all of it was because of the religious trauma that, I went through too. And so, I talked to the priest when I first started coming back to the church, and I said, well, I asked him tons of questions, and then I said, well, how do you explain, transgender people? And he said, I don't explain it because I don't understand it. I'm not transgender. I don't know what it feels like. He said, I can understand how they must feel, but I'm not them. He said, all I can tell you is that God is always expecting us to have compassion, and we're always called to love each other. And he said, it would be no surprise to me if people who are struggling with that internal desire and need to transition to align themselves with who they really are, that this is just another way for God to help us to be compassionate to people we don't understand. And he said, that's just the only thing that I know is that it's all about love. And I'm like, wow. And this is like a
Well, that
priest.
was incredible advice that you got there because
That's
yes,
right.
that is absolutely correct. I always tell people, so like my book and a lot of my education is around allyship and how to be an ally
Mm-hmm.
to this community.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people that you don't have to understand nor necessarily agree with it
Mm-hmm.
to be an ally. What you
Yep.
have to be is
Yep.
respectful
Yep.
and accepting. And
Yeah.
like I talk to it about like I usually when I'm talking to people about it, I put it in the terms of religion and say like, well, if you're a Christian, you don't agree with or understand Hinduism,
That's right.
but you're going to you should respect it. You should respect their customs, their culture, their
Mm-hmm.
traditions, and you
Mm-hmm.
should do what you can to affirm
Mm-hmm.
their cultures, customs,
Mm-hmm.
traditions, everything that
Mm-hmm.
they do. And the
Mm-hmm.
same way you can go for sexuality and gender. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do not expect people to understand what it means to be transgender
Mm-hmm.
unless you have lived it,
Yeah, that's
unless
right.
you understand that just body dysphoria and
Mm-hmm.
the self-hate and the wanting the suicidal thoughts that come with all of that and in most cases the suicide attempts that come with it,
Yes. Yes.
like unless you've lived it is so hard to be able to try to
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And even
Mm-hmm.
like within those people within the community, it's hard when you have like you have people that are gay for
Mm-hmm.
instance, and they'll have issues with transgender
Mm-hmm.
individuals. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because they can't understand it. Just because they're
Mm-hmm.
part of the community doesn't mean they're going to be necessarily accepting of it.
That's right.
It's one of those things that gender is for so long it has been taught to us as black and white, male and female.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
For the means of reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just now that we are finally breaking that down and we're in the midst of this gender revolution. And yes, there are so many different identified genders out there. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it gets very confusing and it gets very tedious. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even for me, I struggle with some of them sometimes, and I'm always learning new identities that pop up, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me try to understand what this means. Like, I get the confusion and the angst and the like, I just can't do this. The
Mm-hmm.
big thing that you have to understand is that with gender, these labels, these terms, these identities are coming about to try to help you
Mm-hmm.
understand. It's not
Yeah.
helping them.
Mm-hmm.
For us, what we are looking at is saying, hey, I just want to be free to be who I am. I want to present
Mm-hmm.
myself as I am. I want to be able
Mm-hmm.
to live in my body as I see fit. If I need surgeries, I can get surgeries. If I need hormones, I can get hormones. If
Mm-hmm.
I need whatever, I can get those. But I have to have that ability to do that for
Mm-hmm.
myself. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't affect the way you treat someone. Why
Mm-hmm.
would it? I mean, who cares how they look? You should be
Mm-hmm.
treating them the same way no matter what.
Amen. Amen. Well, and that's what bothers me so much is that we're infighting instead of supporting.
Yeah.
I saw this great cartoon about we're in it together, and it was all these tiles lined up one right after the other, and it had all the different gender expressions and all the different minorities. And it's like we can't just fight for us. We have to fight for all of us because we're all in the same boat. We all want understanding and we want our rights and we want freedom. And we don't get it sometimes. It's like the alphabet mafia, LGBTQIA plus. It's like I can't say all that all the time.
No, I mean there's so many different acronyms based
I
on how many
know.
identities you want to include in that acronym. Um, but I mean, it really just comes down to this fact that we want everyone to be able to live as
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
And that's the key. And I
yeah,
mean, think of it like religion. How many different denominations of Christianity
exactly.
are there?
Hello.
There are always new different denominations popping up that you're just like, hold on, never heard of that one before. It's the same thing.
I
Are
know.
they're still practicing the very similar religion to you? Yeah, there's differences between Methodist and Presbyterian, or
Mm-hmm.
Lutheran and Catholic. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's differences, and there's
Yep.
differences between the genders as well, but no matter what, we're all striving for the same goal, to
And
be
the energy,
happy.
the essence of who we are, I mean, that's why God created all the diversity on in all the animals and in all the expressions, because when you say, and we just had a little study on this, it's like, what does God look like to you? And it's like nobody could answer that question because, of course, nobody knows. And I said, well, I said, the only thing that comes to my mind when you ask me to describe God, I said, would be a big ball of energy. Because when it says that we are all in God's image, the only way that we can all be the same is the love that we have within ourselves and in our soul, because that's where God resides for me, is in my soul. And so, that takes no image. That's just the energy of who God is. And so that's how we're all connected. It's not by gender, it's not by race, it's not by how we look. It's the love that we can give to each other.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's it.
exactly correct. Yeah. I mean, very similar. I don't think of a big bearded white man up in the clouds. I think of the universe. For
Yeah.
me, I have a very universal picture that God is the universe. The universe has created us.
Hmm.
Our energy will always continually stay within the universe, get reshuffled around. Um, but yeah, it just really comes down to this fact that you want someone to be happy being who they are. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Someone who transitions does not affect you. Hell, it doesn't affect my parents. It
Hmm.
doesn't affect them at all. I'm still the same person.
Hmm.
It doesn't, the only person it ever affected is my wife. And it was because it didn't affect her because she saw me differently. It affected her because how she was treated in public. Because now
Um,
she had to be treated, she was being seen and treated like a lesbian.
mm,
And that wasn't her choice. That wasn't
right.
her what she
Right.
wanted
Right.
necessarily. And
Yeah.
that was the big struggle for us to be able to
Yeah.
figure out. But
Yeah.
for anybody else, doesn't matter. My friends,
Hmm.
all they see is me. That's all they care
Hmm.
about is that I'm the same person that I was before. Yeah, hair's longer. I wear different
Hmm.
clothes, a little bit
Hmm.
more vocal, but that's because I found my strength.
That's right. I love that. Your inner voice is able to come out now because you
Yeah.
must have been just squished, just compacted inside
Oh,
yourself.
I was so angry. I was so
Oh.
angry all the time, ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I talk about it in the book. I've actually write a whole section called "Becoming Envy," which is my kind of whole
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, I was so angry as a kid. I was constantly like beating up my brother, or
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to get angry at my parents. I was suicidal. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to run away from home. All of these things, I was so angry, and I could never figure out why I was angry.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally just clicked for me in 2018 that it's like I'm angry because I'm having to hold down this person. I'm having to be a person that I think everyone else wants me to be instead of the person I am. And
Mm-hmm.
when I finally peel back those layers and said, "This is who I am. I need to live for myself,"
Mm-hmm.
things changed. I'm happy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, it's like a weight was lifted off of me, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I can actually be free. I can be free to
Yeah.
be myself. I can be free to be how the creator imagined me to be, because
Mm-hmm.
the creator, God, Yahweh, whatever you want to, however
Mm-hmm.
name you want to use,
Mm-hmm.
the creator never wanted me to be that angry person who was
Mm-hmm.
lashing out and screaming at people for
Mm-hmm.
no reason whatsoever. Creator
Mm-hmm.
never wanted me to be that
No.
person.
No. All Creator wants is for us to be authentically ourselves and happy and spread that joy to other people.
Yeah,
You can't
I
spread
thought,
good news when you're
yeah,
pissed off.
exactly. There's one lesson that I've always taken, and it comes from Buddha, actually,
Mm-hmm.
that there are 44,000 unique pathways to enlightenment. And it always kind of rung with me. It's like, yeah, you know what? There's not just one clear way. There's not one perfect
Mm-hmm.
way. There's one way for you,
Mm-hmm.
but there's that way, one way for you is completely different for another person. And
Mm-hmm.
so their pathway to enlightenment, to love, to faith, whatever you want to say, is not any less valid than yours. It's
Mm-hmm.
just different.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. So through this whole transition, what was I know you mentioned that one of the hardest parts for your wife was to be able to keep her own identity and not be put into a lesbian couple when she was actually straight. What was the thing that helped you guys through that? Because the reason I'm asking, and if it is too personal, that's okay. I want other people who are going through this to be able to see the window of one line of hope, and it may not be the way they get there, but when I've had other people come on that did decide to stay married, and they have all sorts of different ways they've done that for each other. What was helpful for you guys to mend that division?
Yeah. I mean, first off, there was the division. There definitely
Mm-hmm.
was, because when
Mm-hmm.
I came out, it was this, we almost had to go almost back to dating.
Uh-huh.
Like we were living in the same house, we were married, all this stuff, but it was almost like we had to re-get to know each other in this way, that she had to get to know my feminine side, and I had to kind of break down my notions of my toxic masculinity traits that I was holding on to in order to, stay hidden.
Mm-hmm.
I had to break those down and learn how to re-love her in a different light. And it really came down to this fact that we actually found that we were happier together when I was being able to be myself, when I was being,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't fighting. We weren't
Mm-hmm.
getting upset with each other or even doing little annoying things. Like, it's funny, we talked about this last night. We were reminiscing about when's the last time we actually had a fight, not just like a little spat or
Mm-hmm.
something fun, like an actual fight. And honestly, I think the last time we had an actual fight was pre 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like it's this amazing thing that, yeah, and I gave her time. I gave her plenty
Mm-hmm.
of time. I gave her plenty of grace. I told her from the start that, if she can no longer do this, I would give her an out. I would be like, okay, then I understand, because this is not
Mm-hmm.
what you signed on for.
Mm-hmm.
You did not know, you did not choose this. If you
Mm-hmm.
cannot handle this, I am not going to hold anything against you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was a big thing for her,
Mm-hmm.
was knowing that I gave her this grace to be able
Mm-hmm.
to honestly see if she can do it and not feel like she
Mm-hmm.
had to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it took a while. I mean, it took about 18 months
Mm-hmm.
before she actually gave me an engagement ring.
Oh, that's
Um,
beautiful.
and yeah, she gave me an engagement ring, and that was kind of her way of saying that I'm in this. I'm in this for the
Mm-hmm.
long run. I'm in this for the long haul, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been wonderful because of it. We have this strong, loving relationship, and yeah, it's still difficult for her. She
Mm-hmm.
gets seen as a lesbian
Yeah.
and she still identifies as a straight woman. She still
Mm-hmm.
is attracted to men, but she's also attracted to me because of our relationship. Um, and it's beautiful because of that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to this breaking down the sexual stereotypes as well, thinking
Mm-hmm.
that, she's a straight woman has to be a straight woman and can only be attracted to men. That's okay. Yeah, in most cases that's probably true, but there's a lot of people out there. And when you get to know people,
Mm-hmm.
really know people,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that your sexuality will become a little bit more fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, that's with everyone.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and she fell in love. She fell in love. She might have lusted after you, but she fell in love with. I made you spit. You shouldn't have been drinking that sip.
no, I should not have.
You never know when I'm going to come. But I think we fall in love with the essence of each other. So yeah,
Hmm.
there is physical attraction, of course. However, at the end of the day, we're all going to lose our physical attraction one way or the other.
Yeah.
And we stay together because of that connection that we have emotionally with one another. I, I also wanted to ask, do you think that she had to grieve
Oh
the
yeah.
loss of the husband
Yeah.
part of you?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I write about this as well. Like, especially with these type of relationships and going through a transition, there is a grieving or a mourning
Mm-hmm.
period. There
Mm-hmm.
is a time, and you have to understand that from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to understand that she was going to grieve the loss of that her husband for the fact that she could easily go around in public and not have to worry about anything. And now she has to go around and worry about who's going to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a true meaningful like mourning period for her, and it goes
Mm-hmm.
for everyone who,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I talk about how, my parents, it doesn't affect my parents, but they'll still go through a mourning period
Mm-hmm.
because of the image they had in their head of my
Mm-hmm.
life. No matter what, a parent
Yeah.
is always going to have that image for their child.
Yeah.
They can say they don't. They can say they'll let their kid be anything. You're always going to have some type of image of your child growing
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is that mourning that loss, that mourning that
Mm-hmm.
change. And, there was fear for my parents about, well, why are you doing this? You're giving up your white male privilege.
Well, they're right.
Why? Like, why would you ever want to give that up? Um, and it's a fair question.
Yeah,
It is
especially now.
especially yeah. In Trump's America,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very strong question. And
Mm-hmm.
I talk to a lot of what we call baby trans people,
Yeah.
the ones who are just beginning to transition or starting to question. And I get asked that question all the time. Why would I walk down the ladder of equality?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Ooh. Ooh. That's a good that's a good sentence. Walk down the ladder. Wow. Yeah. And what's your answer?
I, my answer is, it's not real. It sucks that we have this caste system and this ladder
Mm-hmm.
that we
Mm-hmm.
have to walk down. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
walking down, you're making a choice to live for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. You're
Mm-hmm.
not living. We picture this ladder of equality because of how we view ourselves in contrast to others.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out and you choose to live for yourself, you're not comparing yourself to others because you're actually comparing yourself to who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Right. Right. And nobody said the ladder had to be vertical. It might be
Yeah,
horizontal.
could be U-shaped.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. We can make it whatever we want.
exactly. I mean, we're allowing the confines and the constrictions of
Hmm.
that others have placed upon us to hold us back.
Yes. Yes.
And when you finally see that and you finally can break that down,
Hmm.
it it's powerful. It's so powerful to be able to be
Hmm.
like, holy shit, I was living for everyone else.
Hmm.
Now I'm living for myself.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Well, and people have got to wake up to the concept that if there is a ladder and by you being your authentic self, you're walking down that ladder of equality. You're not the problem. The problem is that we do not have equality across the board. So the land of the free and the home of the brave and yada, yada, yada doesn't exist.
no,
It's all a lie
it's never
because
existed.
it's never right. It has never existed. And it's only been the white males that had it. And they,
But you can't even say that because it wasn't just the white males who had it all throughout time. You talk about immigrants and the
yep,
Irish immigrants, the
that's right.
Italian immigrants, the Polish immigrants, everyone.
Right.
We all think that for so long we've had this notion that there's this one way to be, and
Mm-hmm.
that way is the only way,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else is lesser. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
bullshit,
Yeah,
bullshit
it is.
excuse
It
for
is.
placing expectations upon others. You have to break that down. You have to deconstruct your notion of what your religion and your ideas are actually doing to others.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity was never
Mm-hmm.
meant to be a religion of oppression, but it's
Mm-hmm.
been used
Oh, all
as
the
a,
time.
I mean, it was used to keep slaves in line
Mm-hmm.
for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
It was used to oppress civilizations, to allow for colonialism. That was never the message of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message of man.
That's right. That's
The
right.
message of God, the message of Christ is to break down those barriers, to literally wash the feet of those you deem lesser than yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
Yeah. If you really do follow Jesus, this is like a conversation that we should never have to have because Jesus was all about and still is all about inclusion. And there
yeah.
was never anybody that he did not sit with, that he
His
did not
best friend was a
love.
prostitute.
Hello.
Like,
Hello.
let's not claim like overlook that whole thing. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute that Jesus was like, ah, you and me, we good, we're tight. Let's do this thing. Like, and
It's just incredible to me that for so many millenniums that we can't get this concept. We can't get it. It's either Jesus was, in my mind, married to Mary Magdalene or he was gay. So you can I really don't see him as a white male, you
what are you
know.
talking about? He's got the scars. He's a trans man. I saw an artist out of Denmark do that. Like he took a trans man that had recently had top surgery done
Uh-huh.
and did the painting of Mike that Michelangelo did, where Paul was sticking his finger through the hole.
Mm-hmm.
That and so they were recreating that with the top. I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh yes, that's
That
perfect.
well, and I'm glad that God likes our sense of humor because he created it. And so that's the thing. But I imagine things like that. If you can't tell me who made God and how this all started, although, I do believe that God created it all, and and yet we don't know who created God. So don't tell me we have all the answers. Don't tell me that your way is better than my fantasy world. I do believe that there is so much more that we will be revealed in seeing later that
Hmm.
is not here now. I mean, but there's all this petty bickering that we just don't need to have. We're wasting energy arguing about things that don't matter instead of just really living in the love that we are expected to live in. And we're not doing it well at
No,
all.
no, we're not. And
No.
even, I mean, it's not even just, those outside the community. It's from
Hmm.
within the community as
Oh
well.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did a whole project, a photography project called This is Trans
Mm,
that it focused on photographing and telling the stories of trans individuals
hmm.
from all walks of life because
Hmm.
at the time I started it, I was being attacked by other transgender
Mm.
individuals telling me that I wasn't trans enough, that I wasn't actually trans because I used they, she pronouns. I didn't at the time. I was not on hormones.
Mhm.
I was in a more non-binary life, and non-binary is
Mhm.
not trans. No, being transgender simply means that you identify differently than the
Mhm.
gender you were assigned at birth.
Mhm.
There's many ways to interpret that,
That's right. That's
and
right.
so it
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I'm not butch enough, and I know that. That's okay. I always dreamed of being butch, but it's never going to happen. Not
I
ever.
say that. I mean, in every community that happens, no matter which community
Hmm.
you are. I mean, you're not black enough.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
not tall enough. You're too light skinned. You're too dark skinned. You're
Yes.
too your hair is not curly enough. Your hair is not straight enough. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different things from every ethnic group, every
That's right.
racial divide. Like there are so many ways of trying to put us down and put us into this ideal image, and this ideal
Hmm.
image is something that nobody can actually tell us what it is.
Right. Right.
There is no ideal image. There,
No. No.
yeah.
No. And the only ideal is to love.
Mhm.
That's it. And we don't get it. And that's why we're all still here. Once we get it, I do believe that it will all be test well done. You've all passed. I don't know
I
how
don't,
long
have
that's
you
going to
seen the
take.
show The Good Place?
Yes, I did watch some
Yes.
of that. I did.
So they're like at the end of it, they kind of talk about how they've created like so there's the point system and whatnot, but at the
Right.
end they used the neighborhoods as a learning ground
Mm.
where you spent a year in the neighborhood going through and taking different tests and or trying to see if you would earn more points and earn enough points to actually be deemed ready for heaven.
Ah.
And if you weren't, it's not like you were sent to hell. You
Mm-hmm.
were re-put through the system again. And they kept giving you chance after chance after chance, hoping that you would finally wake up and learn and be like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay, I got this. And some people didn't need the test. They just went straight to heaven. Some people
Oh.
needed
Mm.
one trip through the neighborhood. Some people
Uh-huh.
needed 100 trips through the neighborhood.
Hmm.
But no matter what, the point is that we would get to that point to where
Yeah.
we would be able to get into access to heaven through that way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very beautiful way of putting it and a very
Mm-hmm.
easy way of being able to say, like, look, heaven is this place of enlightenment.
Mm.
Like, and some of us are not ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are too close-minded to be able to
Mm-hmm.
understand and accept what we're going to see or what we're going to hear or learn or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
we have to get to that point that we can.
yeah, I'm just contemplating how many times have I been here? Because I'm pretty sure I
Right?
needed more
You think
time.
about it like that, you're like, how many trips around this have I actually
Yeah,
been
yeah,
through?
I
Is this
think
the
it's
one? Am I finally got it? Have I finally got the
I'm
like
on the Ferris wheel of life. Just keep going round and round.
how crazy would it be if that's actually what it is and you
I
get there and
know.
you're like, God damn it, Envy was right.
And maybe that's why when I met my wife, it's like I've known you forever. I probably have.
Yeah.
We've been together every time I come around. It's like, oh, I found you again.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way of thinking about it, about how, allowing us to evolve and allowing us to grow and
Mm-hmm.
really learn how to interact with one another, how to love one another for our
Mm.
differences. And that's a tough thing to do.
It
It is
is.
hard to look at another person who is completely different from you, has a completely different walk of life, a completely different viewpoint than you, and say, I love you.
Mm.
Like over the summer I had an experience where we were at one of the pride celebrations here in central Ohio and we had Nazis march on it.
Mm.
And I actually, in order to protect the children that were there, because the Nazis were starting to yell at the children and tell them how horrible they are.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. Um, I got right up and like looked the leader in the eyes and would refuse to move. Like
Mm.
I kept staring him at the eyes because I wanted him to focus on me and I wanted him to
Mm-hmm.
see the person he was attacking. And
Mm-hmm.
I got viciously attacked and like berated and whatnot, had them put their hands on me and say terrible things. But in the end, what mattered from it was that that person had to look me in the eyes and see
Mm-hmm.
who they were hating and see that this person was not angry. This
Mm-hmm.
person was standing there ready to speak, ready to listen, ready to learn, ready to love.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it was a powerful moment and it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It's very
Yeah.
hard to be able to sit there and do that, but I know it was
Mm-hmm.
needed to be able, because, you fight hate with hate, nothing's going to change.
Right. Right.
Only
Yeah.
light defeats the darkness.
That's right. That's right. That's so scary though. And we alluded to, the times that we're getting ready to go in. And that's probably my biggest challenge now that God is acutely aware of is that my level of anger this past year has been at an all-time high. I mean, I'm just so angry about the whole thing. And then the other day, I did the one thing that if you want to hold on to your anger, you don't need to do is to pray to God that I really would like to have a better heart. And so this guy from my neighborhood from a while back, he's moved out a while ago, but we had a rift before when it was, between Biden and Trump. And he was, of course, a Trump fan, and I was not. And he tried to convince me that Trump was for gay people, and I'm like, "You're an idiot," and that's just not true. I said, "That's not true." I said, "I have a bazillion examples of how he is not for gay people," and and so and I'd even emailed him, like 350 things that Trump is doing that is against us, and then he moved and we kind of parted ways and all that kind of stuff, and we had helped each other along the way. I mean, we weren't adversaries. It was just this one
Hmm.
particular moment in time, but then. he reconnected with me the other day and was saying some really awful things, and I didn't know it was him at first, and I blocked that person that I didn't know who it was, and they were saying these horrible things. And then all of a sudden he shows up on another platform and says, haha, I know you're going to block me again. And I'm like, oh. So we started having a conversation, and the interesting thing was that we cannot be more polarized. And I mean, he drank the Kool-Aid. He's a conspiracy theorist. It's all, crazy. But the one thing that kept drawing us back to each other is that we started talking about love and God and what's the real purpose in life. And it's like, please don't, I'm being aligned with a Trump person. Aligned with Trump. I'm finding common ground with the Trump person. And that was the most healing moment, is to be able to sit in those conversations and hear something else other than just feeling the hate just because of who you voted
Yeah,
for. And I think
it
that's what
really,
it's going to take for us to
yeah,
heal.
it really comes down to humanizing each other, and it goes
Yes.
from both sides of the aisle. We're at
Yes.
this point now where everyone is so angry with the other side, and we're
Mm-hmm.
dehumanizing each other and saying how horrible they are. And it's not just the people on the Trump side; it's the people over here on the left side. They're doing it too. There's plenty of
Yes.
people that are saying it.
Yes.
Plenty of my friends are like, these evil Trump people. How dare they? They just need to be removed. And I'm saying, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that's the same thing they're saying about you.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
what good is that doing? We need to come together, and we need to talk and
Mm-hmm.
humanize each other, because the second that you actually talk with a person and get to know them,
Mm-hmm.
you find it very hard to hate them.
I know. I know. I know.
And I try to do that very much in my daily life. I try
Uh,
anytime, like, live very out and proud. There's a big sticker on the back of my car that says trans people belong everywhere. So everyone knows that I'm a trans person. Um, but even like, I'll get people that come up to me and like want to talk about it and want to ask me questions. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's talk. Let's ask your questions.
yeah.
Like, ask me any question you want. I will be as kind and loving and supportive as I can
Mm-hmm.
be. Just please don't ask me what's in my pants. I can't deal
I
with that question.
I do have some modesty.
Yes, please don't do that question for me. I'm pretty sure you know. Do not ask. Like, just let's move
Let it
past
be.
that one.
Let it
Hey,
be.
everything else, let's go. Let's
That's
go
right.
for it.
That's right.
And I have these conversations, and sometimes I feel unsafe, and sometimes,
Mm.
like, there was one that there was like this 6'5" big hulking white guy comes like running up to me in a parking lot. He's like, hey, you, miss, no, miss, you're trans, right? And I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right, here's the end of my life. All right,
Yeah, I
let's
know,
go.
right? Yeah.
And he's like, I one of my kids just came out. Can I ask you some questions? I'm
Wow,
like,
really?
now I'm like, yes. Oh my God, yes, please. But it's those type of moments and those type of situations that
Hmm.
really help change people and really help people
Yes.
understand and
Yes.
begin to accept and respect us for who we are, because they'll
Hmm.
see that we are just human. Yeah, we're not
Right.
the evil Trump. We're not the evil trans
Oh,
people that Trump continues to say we are.
yes.
We're
Yeah.
not.
Those videos that they were showing during the election were just so
Oh,
dehumanizing to the trans community, and it was just ridiculous. But yet, when you have people who have not been educated and had any other kind of world experience, that was their truth. They latched onto that and they believe it
hmm,
hook, line, and singer, you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
And and it's just so sad that we can't grow, that there's just so many people that are stuck in that one moment in time and the one thing that they've been taught their whole life, and they can't branch out yet. And I'm not saying they won't, but
Yeah.
everything's pretty polarized at this point.
Yeah.
So we'll just see.
It literally just comes with those conversations. It
Yeah.
comes with seeing those people,
Yeah.
because the people that I would have pegged as being someone who would always have been against me and would have never
Hmm.
accepted me turn out to be some of the greatest allies.
That's awesome.
You never know who can make that turn, who can understand.
Yeah.
Hell, who knows? Elon
Yeah.
Musk has himself a trans kid. Maybe one of these days he'll finally get it.
Maybe so.
He'll
I
finally
hope.
get it. He'll finally accept his daughter. love her, affirm her for who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, nope.
Nope.
But let's hope eventually he does.
Yeah. So this book that you have coming out, tell
Yes,
folks when it's coming.
yes. So it's called the Queer Allies Bible, the ultimate guide to LGBTQ empowerment, something like that. I can't remember what the full
Yeah.
title of it
Yeah.
is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, the Queer Allies Bible. That's what
Yep.
matters.
That is.
Um, yeah, it comes out March 25th of next year. So just a couple months away. It is available for pre-orders, both on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, and whatnot. Now, I do
Mhm.
know if you're like me and you shop small and you want to support your independent bookstores, you can go in and ask them if they'll carry it. They should. They should carry it. You should be like, yeah,
Mhm.
you should buy this. You should carry this book
Mhm.
so I can get it from you, and then
Yep.
they will.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Okay.
that's the big thing. But yeah, you can go and pre-order it now if you want to, or wait. And
Mhm.
then yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's exciting because you will be coming back. We will go deeper into the book once it's ready, and I can't wait to have you back. So what can people expect when they can you kind of run down the different
yeah.
um kind of flesh
So
it out for folks? What are they going to
it's
expect?
it, it's kind of like an all-encompassing guide. So it starts off with talking about a three-pronged approach for allyship: learning and understanding, being respectful, and advocating. And it
Mhm.
talks about each one of those three and what you need to do in those points. I cover a lot of, queer history
Mhm.
and things that have happened throughout time.
Mhm.
Um, I cover like common phrases, common things that people hear, but I also do stuff like question and answer. For instance, you hear the men should not be in women's sports. You hear that
Mhm.
statement. What should you say? That's in there. Like I
Mhm.
do these like this is how you should answer a question like that.
Mhm.
I give a lot of instruction on how to be an ally at school, how to be an ally in business, how to be an ally at the hospitals, for so everyone can have that. And then I talk about um, religion and the
Mhm.
LGBTQIA community. So
Mhm.
a lot of deconstructing those thumping verses that just
Mhm.
mm,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of deconstructing of that, talking about
Mhm.
why those verses are used so much, and
Mhm.
then actually using other verses to be like, no, this is what should be going on.
Mhm.
And then the last section is called Becoming Envy, which is kind of my story,
Oh,
how
nice.
I found myself and the
Mhm.
traumas I've had to overcome and to be at this
Mhm.
point. And it's not something to be like tooting my own horn about. Put it in there because I want people to be able to learn from my experiences,
Yeah.
learn from the mistakes I've made, because I have made
Mhm.
a lot of mistakes, especially
Mhm.
when coming out. And I want
Mhm.
people to be able to learn from it so that they don't make those same mistakes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Well, if we don't toot our own horn, nobody knows what we need to say. So, you know, I love the humbleness of what you're saying though, is that this is it was like when I wrote my memoir, it's like you want people to have the information and it's not about bringing attention to yourself as much as getting the attention of this topic out there.
yes.
And that's vastly important, especially with book banning, you know, if we can get these books out there before they ban them, that would be
No,
great.
I know my book will end up on the banned book list. All right, we already know that. I've got the shirt that says banned book author already. Like I know it's happening. That's okay. The big thing is though that is this guide to truly understanding how to
Hmm.
be an ally,
Yeah.
what you need to do. There are other books out there that do a great job about talking about why you should be an ally, or maybe
Hmm.
talking of like glancing over the steps to being an ally. But this
Hmm.
really goes deep, does a deep dive into deconstructing your preconceived notions
Hmm.
about sexuality and gender and
Hmm.
helping you relearn what that means,
Hmm.
because to be a true ally, you have to be all in. You can't just
Hmm.
be on the sidelines. We
Hmm.
call on our allies right now. The reason I wrote this book is literally because, you know, in the LGBTQ community, we are calling on our allies to stand up,
Mhm.
and speak up for us
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
the people that are looking to ban us, to remove us from society, have no care what we say, but they
Right.
do care what the person they think they're protecting is going to say.
Mhm. Right.
And so but our community, we're not necessarily providing the education. We're not
Mhm.
providing the steps on what to do. We're saying,
Mhm.
go out there and be our ally. Well, how? How
Yeah.
should I be an ally?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, especially like with advocating, most people think when you think advocating, you think of protesting, you think of
Mhm.
marching like in demonstrations, or you think about going to the state house. And I very much say that that's one part of being an advocate, but that is not
Mhm.
the only part.
Right.
Being an advocate means using your voice. And you
Mhm.
just need to know how to use your voice. You need to
Mhm.
understand what your voice is, whether you're a writer, you're a
Mhm.
painter, you're a speaker, whatever.
Mhm.
Find your voice and use it to help empower this community, help
Mhm.
uplift this community, and
Mhm.
realize that you have a great platform to be able to open doors for us. You do
Mhm.
not, as an ally, you should not be speaking for us. You should be opening those doors, giving us the space to be able to speak for ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, every year there's banned book readouts, and Defense of Democracy is a nationwide nonprofit group that has chapters in all the most of the states, I guess. And they did a readout this year, and so you may want to look into that. And next year you
Okay.
can be one of the focus
I'll
people.
have to make sure I look into that.
I know, look into that. And if I do it again, I did my book, but we can partner up and
Love it.
um so we'll talk later about that. But that I want to get you connected to some of that advocacy because they do have a special group. They have a military group. They have, different types of groups within the big group. So that'll be interesting. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I really appreciate you being on this show, and I appreciate your authenticity and your journey. I
Mhm.
appreciate how well you've come through it. I know it had to have been excruciating at times, and your light and your presentation of how you've come through it is just so loving and so energetic, and I really appreciate that energy right now. So thank you for
Well,
being here.
no, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. And
Mm,
yeah, it was tough. It was a long
mhm.
journey. I am the person I was in 2018 when I came out is not the person that's sitting here and before you. This
And that
person,
is,
it took me a long time to
yeah,
find my voice, to find my
yeah,
strength, my courage.
yeah.
But I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
I'm happy, and I'm
Yeah.
ready to fight tooth and nail for
Th-
everyone.
That's right. We got to stick together. So thank you and love to your wife and your cat. So, guys, thank you for supporting this show, for always subscribing and sharing. And please do that with this episode too. Um, and understand that, we are here for you. We have a Facebook group called Gay with God where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. So, if you join that page, remember to answer all the questions because I want to make sure that I know who's joining the group to protect ourselves and to make sure that we're all aligned with what we're going to do in that group. So, that's Gay with God on Facebook. Also, remember that if you are local and you want to hear me do a little homily on Christmas Day, I've done my sermon. I'm re-editing it probably up until the time I do it, but I'm really happy. We're going to learn lots about Mary in ways that you might not know her, because she is the reason that we have the season. Because she said yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll carry that child. So if you want to do that, please email at empower. I always do that. Empoweredmidge at Gmail. And you can empoweredmidge at Gmail. Don't even know I'm on Gmail there, Envy. And I will get you the deets on that so that you can come if you're local. And if not, if you want to join the Zoom homily uh, at 10:30 on Christmas morning, email me again and I will send you that link. So, if you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA plus, or not even sure if you're gay, God has always been within you, even when you didn't know it. You have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, You are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.